In this video and the ones that follow, we're going to look at specific items of earthworks plant. So these are the tools of your trade. In the same way that a chippy has a hammer and a plumber has a wrench, and a civil construction person has an excavator or a digger or a truck. So our tools are much bigger than everyone else's, which is nice to know. So an excavator is a really useful piece of equipment, and you'll find that most construction sites have at least one excavator on site. There are two different types of excavators, and they are different by the orientation of the bucket. So you've got backhoe excavators here, which dig towards the operator. So the operator's sitting there, and you can see that the bucket sort of reaches out and then pulls in towards the operator underneath, so backhoe. And then you've got the face shovel, which is usually used in quarries, not used so much in construction sites, where the bucket actually goes up. So the bucket goes in low and then goes up and digs it up like that. So face shovels are really good for excavating soil sitting in vertical slopes. Backhoes are good for digging below ground, or they can dig slopes as well, but not as efficiently as a face shovel. So when we talk about excavators, usually we're talking about backhoe excavators. They can be re-rigged to be a face shovel, but they're not a very good face shovel. You can see here that the specialist face shovel has much stronger boom than the backhoe. That they're built to be face shovels, but these can be. You can turn that bucket round and turn it into a face shovel, but it's not as good. So the parts of the excavator, there's the boom, the arm and the bucket, and you can see that's almost like an arm. So that's like your upper arm, it's like your elbow, that's like your lower arm, and that's like your hand with your wrist there. The excavator has the operator sitting in a cab right at the front there, and behind him is the engine. The engine acts as a counterweight, so you've got the boom sitting right next to the operator on this turntable here, which is like a seesaw fulcrum, and the engine acts like a counterweight, and sometimes you'll add extra weight onto it as well. You can see that also down below them that that whole upper part is sitting on a turntable, so it can turn in 360 degrees, and it's sitting on tracks here. All of the systems in an excavator are powered by hydraulics, not by direct mechanical linkage like in your car. In your car you have an engine, there's a transmission, and it goes straight to the wheels. In an excavator there's an engine, a motor, a diesel engine, which powers a hydraulic pump which produces high pressure oil, which goes down to power the drive motors in these tracks here, and there's good reasons for that which are explored in another video. So it can swivel, so it's built so it's on tracks, it can move over quite rugged country. Very useful piece of equipment. As can be seen here in the activities, they're usually used for cutting, so if you're trimming a bank or something like that, or excavating, you can actually use the excavator for that, and then load it onto a truck. They're not very good at hauling. You can sort of pick it up and swivel and drop, so if you were doing, say, moving it some soil, maybe 5-10 meters, the excavator can park in between, excavate, swivel around and drop it. So if you're, say, doing a sidling cut on a road, that's a very useful thing to do. You can pick it up in a bucket and travel along, but it's very, very slow, and it doesn't carry much material, so it's not very good for hauling anything more than a few meters. Laying, it can be used to spread out the material too. It's not as good as something like a bulldozer or a grader, but it can still do it. So once again, it's not very efficient, it's slow, it's got a smaller bucket, so it's not as efficient, so it's only really viable in very small areas. If you've got a small area there, it's not worth bringing in a bulldozer. You can get the excavator just to smooth everything out. Compaction, excavators can be 10, 20, 30 tons, so they weigh quite a bit, and there's quite a lot of load on their tracks. And so a legitimate way of compacting the material, or at least doing an initial compaction, is track rolling, where the excavator just goes up and down and uses its weight to compact the soil, as opposed to a specialist compactor like a steel drum roller or a vibrating roller. You might just do the initial compaction with the excavator and then get a specialist piece of equipment in to do the final compaction. And shaping, while it's not used to shape roads or anything like that, it is used to shape slopes. So if you've got a slope next to a road, you'll get the excavator in to shape that into the appropriate shape. Now there's another video on Moodle which examines excavators in a lot more detail. There's some videos showing them in action. I suggest you look at that as well. It gives you a lot more information about excavators, and they are probably the most useful piece of plant we have on site, so well worth looking at that video.